Hi everyone, this is Rose from Jewelry Designs by Rose. I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful necklace today using Softflex white wire and yellow beads from Softflex. If you buy the yellow and silver wire from them, you will get these beautiful yellow beads and gray beads. That's what I'm using today, as well as the blue bargain bead box beads. You can use the bargain bead box stone that came in the month of February. I just happen to have this chalcedony stone here at the bottom, so I'm using that. I'm using a bunch of sterling silver crimp beads and crimp covers. Thank you for joining. Okay, so I put my design on the beading tray and I'm going to use the white Softflex wire. This white Softflex wire is 0.014. It is a fine soft flex wire. I also have a 0.010, which is a very fine soft touch wire. And that's also in a white color, but I am going to try this one here because the other one is more flexible, and so I might want to use that for something else. So the first thing I did was I measured it to be, I want this to be around 20 inches around, so I gave about an inch more on each side. I'm trying to make sure that I don't use too much of my wire as excess. So I'm just taking a crimp bead here, and it's a sterling silver crimp bead, and I'm using a sterling silver lobster clasp. And I'm trying to think, it doesn't matter which direction this goes, but if you had a pendant that had one direction facing, I would always try to make sure that you put the lobster clasp on the left side, only because when you turn it around and put it on, you want to make sure that you can put the lobster clasp on with your right hand. That's just how I am. I like to be able to grasp the lobster clasp to open it with my right hand. So something to note you might want to think about is to put your lobster clasp on the left side, and that would just make it easier. So here I have this tiny little cute lobster clasp here, and since I don't want to waste any wire at all, I'm going to kind of pull it down to be as close to the edge as I possibly can without it falling off, of course. So this only leaves a tiny little extra here, like that. Hopefully that will still give me plenty of room extra for the final, and it looks like it will. So I'm going to get my crimping tool. I'm sure you've seen these are on crimping tools in many different videos, and so I'm going to crimp it together and pull it tight. One of the other reasons why that I love using the Softflex wire is it's very durable. And I use these sterling silver crimp beads, and I'm going to close it up. And I've used other wires, and what I've noticed is that if you use a different type of wire, it tends to wear out right where this crimp bead is. And over time, it could be 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. But if I'm using the Softflex wire, it has a less tendency to break. The wire is very strong. And so that's why I moved. And it wasn't just over time, it was actually when I was making the jewelry designs itself. I would crimp it and then I would pull it and kind of move it around after I'm beading, and then all of a sudden it breaks. And so that's one of the reasons why I tend to stick with sterling silver crimp beads and also the soft flex wire. When you use the other non-sterling silver crimp beads, they have a lot of rough edges on the edge, and so that tends to cause the cutting of the wires more easily. And if you don't have a good wire, it's definitely going to come apart or break off. So I'm going to go ahead, and then, like I've said in my previous videos, when I'm using a sterling silver crimp cover, it's a lot easier to close. And so I just wanted to show you that in the past with the non-sterling silver crimp cover, you know, I have to use a little bit more strength, and so I use the larger crimping tool to close it. So with this particular one, being sterling silver, it's very small. I could even probably close it partially with my hands. That's how it's a little bit softer. Yep. And so I'm just going to use this. See how easy it closed? Just real simple, very little pressure with the sterling silver, and it closed. And so I'm just going to give it a little bit more crimps to make sure that there's no gap. There's the little space. You could barely see a gap there. So I just like to make sure that it is. There you go. Very, very easy. And it's really, really nice when you use sterling silver. Again, it's easier to work with. Very pretty. Okay, so now that I got this, I am going to put this at 10, and I'm going to put on my first bead. Actually, I'm going to put on the first crimp bead. Okay, so let's see here. I want this at 7.5. And so there's going to be a little more space. So maybe I will add another bead at a blue bead at 8.5. So I've been using these blue beads here. So that would be at this one is 7.5, so 6, 7.5, and then 9, and the crimp will be at 10. So I'm going to go ahead. I have a ruler. I'll hold this up so you can see what I'm doing. I have a ruler. It has centimeters on it. And I'm going by inches, so I'm going to use the inch side. So 10 is where, it's 1 inch down is where I want the bead to go. So there's my first bead. At 9, 1 inch down. Seems very close. So maybe I will skip. That means it would go down to 2.5. So let's see what that looks like. That would be there. I think that's really good. I think that's fine. So actually I'm going to take that extra bead off. Okay, so my first bead is going to be at 2.5 inches from the 20-inch mark. So I'm putting the clasp at 0 and putting the bead at 2.5. And so now I could figure out where I'm going to put that crimp tune on. and make sure that I'm close enough in the frame so that you could see this. Okay, so here's my bead. My bead is going to be at center 2.5. So that means I'm going to need to put my bead right at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, right there. So that's where my bead needs to go in order for this to be exactly where I want it to be. So I've got to make sure to keep my clasp in place and measure exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is exactly where I need it to go. So I'm putting my fingers there to mark the spot. Again, I close it. Just make sure that looks correct. Perfect. And then get my V. Close that up. It's tight. I'm gonna get my crimp cover. And just make sure that goes on really nice and smooth. It moved just a little bit, so I'm just going to straighten it out. Make sure I can get that on really nice and flush. It keeps wanting to move slightly, I'm not sure why, but that's good. I think that it's going to be okay just like that. I like mine to be as close to perfect around. This edge seems to want to stick out a little bit more. Sometimes it's easier to see with these magnifying glasses. You might have the head one. I just have the clip-ons, magna clips. And I only put them on when I need them to get really super close. Okay, so I can see now that one side is closed more than the other. Okay, so I'm gonna have to adjust it slightly. Now you can flip these magnet clips up and leave them on your glasses, and it's a lot more comfortable that way, but they are a little bit heavier, so I'm just going to take them off for now. I don't want to have any sinus issues. Okay, so that is on, and as you can see, it just looks like a floating bead on the wire. Now I'm going to add my yellow stone, my yellow glass bead. Okay, and I'm going to add the other crimp tube. And I'm going to leave just a teeny bit of space, only because I have to put the crimp cover over and I don't want it to be too difficult to do that. So I'm just going to hold it with the pliers and pull it out just a tiny bit away from the bead, and then I'm going to crimp down, and then I'm going to go ahead and close it. I made that little V. fit on there really nice. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my crimp cover on. It needs to be adjusted just slightly. And again, I'm going to use my magnifiers. I probably should keep these on the whole time since I have quite a few of these to do on this. Okay, so looking at it with my magnifiers, it is really close. And it looks like one side is higher than the other, so I'm just going to press down on it to make a pretty yellow bead hanging from the white. I think the white is great. I'm going to cut off this excess from the, oops. I'm going to cut off this excess wire. Being very careful to get as close as I can so that you can't see it. I should have cut it off before I put the crimp cover. But there you go. You still can't see it, so that's perfect. So there we go. We have our first pretty wire, and it's making the wire straighten out a little bit, so that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. So now I'm going to put the next bead at 1.5 inch down from the center of this bead. So I'm going to put the crimp bead on. I'm going to put my blue bead at exactly, this one's got a little boo-boo there, so I'm going to get a different bead. I think this one's fine. So it's going to be 1.5 inches away from the center of this bead. So I'm putting this yellow bead in the center, and I'm going to put this bead at 1.5. And so I'm going to want to crimp on the crimp tube just before that blue bead. So that's going to be right at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again from the 1 inch mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be right there. I'm going to put my fingers there, and that's going to be where the edge of this crimp tube is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and get a hold of that. Just make sure that it's right where I want it. And close that, and then I'm going to check it because I think it might be slightly off. No, it looks right. 1, 2, let me just get to 1.5. That looks perfect. To just a little bit high, I think. Let me see. I think it's going to be perfect with the crimp cover. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and put the crimp cover on. And again, being very careful to close it gently. Okay, so then I'm going to put on my bead, and I'm going to put the second crimp. Okay, just going to hold that so that it's just slightly away from the bead, again to accommodate the crimp cover. Close that up. Looks good, it's not going to move. So I think if I have, like, I see a couple of crimp tubes that are a little bit bigger than others, I'm going to switch those out for slightly smaller. Okay, so now I'm going to put the crimp cover over this one. I could see the crimp cover with my magnifying. That one was kind of higher than the other already. And I want to push it back. So you have this really cute floating. I love the color combination of the yellow and the blue. It looks really pretty. So you could wear this with a yellow shirt, or you can wear this with a blue shirt. Either one, I think it's going to make the yellow or the blue stand out, and I think it's going to be really super pretty. So I'm going to continue to do this, and I will fast forward the next section. If you want to slow it down, then you could definitely slow it down so that you can watch all of it. So again, I'm doing 1.5. So we've got the center of the bead here. This is going to be the 1.5 mark of this yellow bead. Want it exactly in the center. I've got to put my crimp bead in so that I can mark the spot with my finger. I'm just finishing up with this last crimp cover here. And then that's to put on the jump ring and to finish the clasp, and just closing these together with this small sterling silver crimp clasp, and it turns out really, really pretty. As you can see here, I love the color. I wish you could see it in the natural daylight a little bit more because it looks really pretty. I'm gonna hold it up for you so that you can see it a little bit closer, and I will add also the photo of it with the white background so you can just see it a little bit better. But this is it kind of close up. Looks really nice. Came out really nice. Here's the picture of it with the white background so you can see a little bit better. And I really am appreciative that you joined my channel to watch this video. I hope that you try to create similar designs. It's just really, really super pretty. If you don't have the white wire, you know, you can just use the sterling silver with the clear coating or stainless steel with clear coating. But definitely try this out because it's really pretty design. Thank you so much again for watching. Bye for now.